Hi, Jeremy Crow here. This video I just wanted to chat with you guys on this Canadian Thanksgiving about anything you want, about anything in particular occult related. So here I am. I'm actually working today, but I had my Thanksgiving dinner already. I had it on Saturday evening. And so the last couple days I've been having turkey leftovers with all the trimmings. It's I love it. It's delicious to me. Sorry to you vegans out there or vegetarians. Actually, I was a vegetarian and even a vegan for a while, but it was well over a year that I was vegetarian, and then I was more vegan, dietarily vegan, and philosophically, but I didn't throw out my leather jacket, for example, when I went vegan. That would have been a purely symbolic gesture, which actually would cause more waste than if I had kept it and used it. And the other thing that I understood was that leather is a product of the beef industry rather than the other way around. If there weren't anybody eating beef, then there would be no leather being made. Thank you very much, Nina the Mystic. Happy Thanksgiving to you as well. I was just talking about the time when I was vegan and why I didn't throw out my leather jacket. If people were to stop eating beef, they wouldn't be raising cows for their hide to make leather, So I felt like if I wasn't eating beef, then I wasn't supporting the industry. And I wasn't buying new leather. I was just, not throwing out my old leather that I already had. So that was why I still wore my leather jacket and stuff. During the phase when I was a vegan. I call it a phase because I'm not vegan anymore. It's a hot topic, especially in the esoteric community, because there are a lot of people who believe that you can't reach the highest levels of enlightenment, or however you want to word it, but that's the sentiment that comes across if you eat meat. That there's a lot of arguments about that in terms of that eating the flesh of another animal, people don't even necessarily explain it. They'll say that it drags down your energy frequency level, or they'll say that you are ingesting the fear of the animal that you've eaten, which has some validity to it in a sense, because there are hormones and chemicals in the body, neurochemicals, etc., not just in the brain. You have neurotransmitters throughout the body, in higher concentration in the brain and in the gut, strangely enough, which ties into the whole gut-brain concept, which is a very interesting topic. What was I talking about? Veganism. But yeah, like, if the animal was afraid when it was slaughtered for meat, then maybe you're going to be ingesting some of those. Although if it's cooked, how much of that gets denatured and how much of it actually comes through, how much of it's compatible with your physiology, probably not a heck of a lot, really. But there is that idea, that concept to it, that does have a bit of potential. You can rationalize it out. But a lot of times people will just say, oh, it brings your chi to a lower frequency, or it keeps you stuck in the lower chakras. I don't see why that even has any validity whatsoever. There's no reasoning behind it. But I'm not really trying to debate veganism here, or the merits, or why maybe you shouldn't be vegan or anything like that. If you are vegan, that's a very I understand. Because I've gone through it. I understand the discipline of it, and actually, that's part of the reason that I stopped is because I ended up getting too caught up in it, and it almost became an eating disorder. Almost like it was on the edge, where if there was something that I couldn't be sure of, or if if I start getting worried about purity, and if I couldn't find something that I wanted, I just wouldn't eat. And so that was an issue, and I recognized that that had become an issue, and I was constantly thinking about, what's vegan and what's not, and it just became overwhelmingly in my life, like in the forefront of my mind at all times, and it became obsessive. Essentially, it became an obsession, and I recognized that about myself, and I said, okay, this is unhealthy. I'm not going to worry about purity anymore. But I did still retain some of the values from that phase because I did spend a lot of time thinking about it. I do eat meat, but I don't eat meat every meal. I don't feel like I have to have meat every meal, or even every day, or every week. I don't necessarily eat meat all the time. I do eat meat fairly regularly, but I don't feel like I have to eat meat. So like I said, I have tons of vegetarian meals all the time. And I don't feel like I'm missing out or anything like that. I don't have that craving for that I need meat. I do admit sometimes I do feel like I really need some meat, but most of the time I can happily have a vegetarian or even vegan meal and not feel any kind of lack or whatever, that I'm not missing out. And when I do have meat, I prefer to have it wild caught, in a sense, or hunted, because that animal has lived its entire life free in the wild, and then it gets eaten by a predator, which just happens to be me. Somebody else maybe hunted the animal, but I'm the one that's eating it or whatever, right? So it gets its normal life cycle. That's the normal existence for an animal, is to live free in the wild until one day maybe it gets eaten by somebody. There's a hierarchy in my own mind. I'm not going to get into it. This video wasn't really supposed to be about this, but I have a hierarchy in my mind of what kind of meats I would prefer, like free range, that kind of, family farm raised rather than factory farmed is right at the bottom of that hierarchy of like which, that I would prefer. I would often go nowadays without meat if it was going to have to be factory farmed meat. But happy Thanksgiving to everybody who showed up here. Whether you're in, happy Canadian Thanksgiving, I should say, because I know not many people are celebrating Thanksgiving today, but I'm here in Canada, and today is Thanksgiving, and I'd like to thank all of you for showing up here in this Carstream to spend some time with me, and we can discuss whatever you'd like. Do you have any occult topics or esoteric subjects you'd like to bring up? Most of my live streams lately, I've been talking a lot about astral projection and lucid dreaming and the out-of-body experience, but one of my other major interests in the field of esotericism would be tarot. So that's one of my main loves in the occult, would be tarot and tarot divination, but also much beyond that. You can use tarot in a lot of different ways. You can use it, in a sense, it's a portable temple. So what you can do is you can take specific cards and you can actually set them up in a room in different ways to to set up a temple in a sense. And you can even do, if you don't have like a full room, you can even do like a miniature version of it. Now, there's an old practice, I can't remember at the moment what the civilization that used to do this, but I think more than one have done it. Chakra removal would be good. What's your take on it? Miss B asks. Removal of chakras. Wow. I have no idea. Why would you remove a chakra? I believe that chakra is more like an energy plexus in the energy body, which usually corresponds to some sort of nerve plexus in the physical body. I'm not sure why you'd want to remove a chakra. It'd be kind of like chopping off a limb, wouldn't it? But back to tarot, you can, if you don't have a full room to set up, Miss B says, I keep coming across it. Oh, interesting. Yeah, I've never heard of it before until you've just mentioned it now. But yeah, you can set up in a physical room, but if you don't have the full room, you can actually do a miniature like on a table where you lay it out as if you were going to be doing the ritual in that table. And there were ancient cultures, multiple ones, I believe, that would actually create little dolls, essentially, you might as well say, or in a miniature effigy of themselves that they would put down, and that would kind of pray for them, in a sense. They would have it meditating, or they would have it in front of some other icon that they were praying to, or something like that, or some sort of symbol. It would be surrounded by some sort of symbol, and it would essentially be praying for you 24 hours a day. You would set it up, a little effigy of yourself, and it would pray for you, in a sense. And that was kind of the concept behind it. And you can do that in modern tarot practice if you understand the cards really well. You can set up a layout on the table, and then you can even kind of imagine yourself doing the ritual in that miniature temple that you've kind of created. BALG is into this right now. The Nina the Mystic says. So I believe are you talking about chakra removal, or are you talking about miniature tarot temples? And BALG, if anybody doesn't know, that's Become a Living God. So yeah, I'm not sure. Wasn't aware that they were into either of those things. Yes. Yes, which one? I asked either or, so I'm not sure. Yes, it's one of the two. So yeah, I'm not sure what, but oh yeah, so I used for the thumbnail for this video, I actually used my t-shirt. Oh, chakra removal, Nina the Mystic says. That's interesting. Yeah, I'll have to look up, I'll have to go on their channel and see what they're talking about. But this is a shirt that I got. It's the Japanese letters, katakana letters, that say crow, and the foot of the crow is the top part of that middle letter, that Japanese letter. It's katakana, and it says karasu, and it just means crow in Japanese. And this is a design that I had commissioned by an artist in Nova Scotia, and she did an amazing job on it, and I had the t-shirt printed. And actually, I put a link in the description. If you want to buy this shirt, you can get it from my shop, and that would help support the channel. There's some other things there as well in the shop, like there's a couple other shirts. You know, there's one with the LRS symbol on it, and maybe I'll wear that in my next video. The Luciferian Research Society. It's a double Ouroboros with two snakes kind of biting each other's tail, and they both have a crown. One has a white candle and one has a black candle, and the black candle is pointing down with a black flame on the end of it. And it's got a Lucifer symbol in the middle and the LRS. and it's pretty cool in my opinion. I really like that design as well. That's been around for quite a while. That's the main primary logo, you could call it, or sigil for the Luciferian Research Society, and it's in gold on black. That's the standard. And you could also get a tarot reading from me, actually, so it kind of ties into the tarot subject we were talking about before. You can get a tarot reading directly from me, from that shop. And if you just wanted to go to shop, link on jeremycrow.com. So if you go to jeremycrow.com, and then there's a shop link in the top banner, and you click that, and all of that stuff is there. So let's see here. Promethea, or Prothama says first like. Thank you very much. Yeah, I see there's only one like, and you're the only one that liked it. So thank you very, very much. I give thanks on this Thanksgiving for the like that you gave. Nina the Mystic says cool. Stella Lucifera says beautiful. Prothama says cute t-shirt. I'm glad you guys liked it. I really like it as well. I think that the artist did a really great job. Miss B, Enoch, Petrulli, and Curtis Joseph talk about chakra removal. Cool shirt. Thank you. Yeah, okay, I'll look that up. Yeah, I'm curious now what this chakra removal thing is. It seems kind of the idea is kind of a radical idea, I think. Anomalia says differences between paganism and the occult / left-hand path identities, practice, orientation. Is the left-hand path / occultism equivalent to modern paganism with respect to its intentions in terms of application and philosophy, or ought it be classified as something other than modern paganism? And Ms. B says, do you have a PayPal link? I can put a link in my description for PayPal. It's webmaster@jeremycrow.com. If you wanted to send a donation. But if you wanted to buy the shirt, I would go to the site and do it through the site. That's the best way to get the shirt. Derek McKenzie, hey bro, hey man, how's it going? Happy Thanksgiving, happy Turkey Day. I know you're in Canada, out east. Happy Thanksgiving to you too. Hope you're having a good one. Nina the Mystic, bunch of emojis. Okay, so is left-hand path and or occultism equivalent to modern paganism? No, it's not the same. Paganism is more of a category of religion, whereas occultism is a form of practice, or a set of practices, you could say, where it technically goes back to the root word occult, which means hidden in Latin, and it's essentially hidden knowledge or lesser known practices, and it ties into the word esoteric as well, which means for the few, essentially, or obscure. And esoteric can just mean anything that's obscure. It could mean like some sort of ancient fiber craft. It doesn't have to be anything spiritual at all. But in most cases, when somebody says esoteric, usually, in my experience anyways, but that's the community I run with, usually they're talking about occult practices or occult knowledge, which is lesser known practices that can be utilized to essentially gain an edge, and to gain knowledge of the self, to achieve a level of individuation, you might say, or insight, and also to be more effective in your activities in general, like to be more effective in achieving whatever goal you have, whether that goal be a material goal or something more subtle. in terms of maybe a goal for your own personal psyche or your emotional goals, you could say. Whatever it is you're trying to achieve, that occultism is a set of practices that are lesser known that people can utilize to become more effective in whatever they're trying to do. Left-hand path is more of a direction, more of an intention, in a sense. Left-hand path is more the intention to. Then do you hear that train trying to drown me out with its whistle? But the left-hand path, as it's currently used in the West, I don't like the term, by the way. I think that it causes unnecessary confusion. But what it means is essentially that there are two main ultimate goals with any kind of spiritual practice, and I use spiritual in a very loose, kind of convenient way. But one goal is essentially to dissolve back into the source in a state of bliss, like a static union where the boundaries between self and other kind of break down. And the other main goal, that would be right-hand path, as is currently used. The other main goal would be to individuate yourself to such an extent that you become your own force of nature in your own right, almost like becoming your own god, becoming a god in the universe, becoming a force, a creative force in the universe, and bending the universe to your will, in a sense, or becoming an influence that has an impact on the world in your own right, rather than dissolving into kind of like union with everything. You're kind of going the opposite way, where you're kind of concentrating yourself into a distinct force. And that would be what left-hand path is. Now, paganism would be like a category of religion, in a sense, where it's generally it's personifying natural forces that are experienced in nature, and it's usually polytheistic and celebrates the natural cycles of the earth and life, and tries to get more in tune with that. And so I don't think that any of these three things are mutually exclusive. I think you could be all three. You could be a pagan who practices left-hand path occultism. That's totally a thing. Essentially, that's what I do in a lot of ways. You could say that. Now, as far as not liking the term left-hand path and thinking it causes unnecessary confusion, one thing, and this might be controversial, but I think maybe a lot of people have experienced this, is that you can achieve both, really, in a sense, because you can achieve that ecstatic state of union and complete dissolution of your ego, or of egotism, really, is more the term that should be used there. But you completely lose that sense of individual self, and you kind of feel that universal oneness of the universe, and then you can come back to being an individual again. Like, it's usually not a permanent state, so if it was, you'd be in trouble, right? You wouldn't be able to function. And so maybe some people might want to do that at death, and that maybe that's more of the term when you're saying right-hand path. Maybe that is more of, I want to live in that state after my physical body dies. But I don't know if that's even going to be, we don't know if it might be a state that can be entered into and it temporarily, even in the afterlife state, right? So when your physical body stops working, we don't know exactly what the experience will be, if there will be an experience at all. And I think that it's possible to create that influential sphere, that force that is influencing things, and even enter into that blissful state of union, or the ecstatic state of union, while still having um, a force, an influence in the world. Well, I mean, there's a lot of people that we know that have gained influence after their physical body died, but we don't know what their experience in the afterlife state is. Maybe they're having that blissful state of union, while at the same time their influence continues to grow in the world. I mean, look at Elvis, for example, you know? And you know, like some people have a crystallized influence. You know, it's become crystallized in the world. Like Alexander the Great, for example. I mean, you say Alexander the Great, pretty much everybody around the world knows who you're talking about. But that was how long ago? Thousands of years ago? A couple thousand years, something like that. Long time, right? So that he has a crystallized force. We don't know what his experience is. He might be having that blissful state of union with all, while still having a crystallized force in the universe that it's not necessarily mutually exclusive. So the whole terms left-hand path, right-hand path, I think, are very limiting in that sense, and not even properly descriptive, I think. And Derek says, do you think that people take these paths to defy what their parents wanted them, or maybe tried to force them to go? Yeah, definitely. I think that sometimes it's just an act of rebellion, that people feel like they want to do something different. They want to strike out on their own and pioneer, explore something. Sometimes it's the allure of the perceived danger, and there is danger in the esoteric arts and sciences and occult practice. There is danger. Part of that danger, I think, is one, obsession. People can become obsessed with things. Delusion. You can become deluded about the nature of reality. You can get further into delusion. You can further enmesh yourself into delusion rather than freeing yourself from it, which is probably the ultimate purpose. But sometimes it goes the opposite way. Sometimes people become astral junkies and become real flaky, and sometimes they get paranoid because they believe that people are putting curses on them. If you don't have a certain level of mental stability, it can exacerbate that instability within you. So there's this famous occultist, Israel Regardie, and he was a secretary to Aleister Crowley for a while, and he was a part of the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, at least a version of it that had splintered off, or not splintered, but like continued it on after the initial one had broken up, under the name Stella Matutina, which means morning star, which is a reference to Lucifer, actually. But he published a lot of those Golden Dawn rituals in a big book, but he had this suggestion that everybody who's considering esoteric work should take 1 year of some kind of psychotherapy of some sort or another, for a full year at least, before embarking upon the esoteric path and the occult practices, because he felt that it would give you a lot more solid foundation, and that less likelihood of some of these potentially negative side effects, like delusion and obsession, and like I said. That's all the time I got, though, folks. I'm glad that helped you out, Animalia. You're very welcome, and thank you all on this Thanksgiving Day in Canada. Thank you all for showing up and hanging out with me, and for the likes. I got a few more likes here. And everybody enjoy. Have a great day, Derek says, and I was just about to say the exact same thing to all of you. Have a great day. If you're in Canada, try and spend it with your family if you can, or loved ones, your friends, your chosen family. I'm glad that you chose to hang out with me today for a little while. And just enjoy the rest of your day, and thank you so much all for being part of this. And until next time, stay lucid.